Jihyo, a mysterious and introverted young man, had always concealed his true identity. Despite being the heir to a wealthy family, his past drama had left him with an intense fear of being stared at and judged by others. With his heart concealed with shadows, his father had seen him homeschool for a long time that he forgot when it started. Now that it was time for him to start university, his father pushed him to face his fear of interacting with others. One fateful day as Jihyo wandered aimlessly, lost in the complicated corridors because he wanted to avoid people. As he started to panic, Jimin, a senior with a helpful and understanding nature, suddenly appeared. In a split second, their paths crossed and they felt an immediate connection. It seems like Jimin had known Jihyo for a long time. She asked, "Are you lost? What is your major? I can help you." Jihyo handed his register paper and Jimin learned that he studied business like her. "I'm reaching the end of my time at university," she said. "We had 3 subjects to study together. Don't laugh at me. I failed these 3 subjects because they were difficult." "Well, you reminded me a lot of the young me. Let's go to the registered room together." Jimin showed him everything about the university freshly and openly. She felt like it was the first time she could talk freely because she had just met a person who didn't know her. Now they arrived at the room. Jimin taught and explained every step to him. One staff said, "Oh, here is our university princess." "Oh, please don't say like that," she replied. In the past, Jimin was the most popular girl in school. She had everything, both beauty and wealth, but something ashamedly happened to her. From that moment on, she was alone, and her life was a living hell. Jimin told Jihyo, "Today may be the only day I could talk to you. Tomorrow, or the next hour, you would want to stay away from me." Jihyo was shocked to hear this because she was the first person who he felt comfortable with. He asked her why, but she wouldn't answer. Actually, she didn't have friends because of rumors. Before, she had many friends, and one of them was Kim, Jimin's best friend. This is Kim, the most popular girl in the university, and her boyfriend from a rich family, Junho. For information, Junho was Jimin's ex-boyfriend. Well, they failed the major as Jimin too. Kim couldn't get her eyes off from Jihyo, who was feeling uncomfortable seeing many students. When class finished, Jimin left quickly, but she saw Junho told Jihyo about staying near her, the criminal. She started to avoid Jihyo. For Jihyo, he didn't care about it because it was unreasonable as he felt some weird connections with Jimin the first time he met her. "This is Kim's mansion." She asked her father about the son of a billionaire. Who was his patient? Her father, the famous psychiatrist, told her his name, Jihyo. Then Kim knew the identity of the mysterious Jihyo. In her room, she called someone and asked for service. Next day, Jihyo wanted to sit next to Jimin, but she changed seats. Therefore, Kim rushed to sit next to him. Jimin always sat at the back and left first with no one noticed. Arriving home, Jihyo's father asked his son about school. As normal, he would say it was good. He asked the driver if his son was okay. The driver answers Jihyo seems to worry about a girl in his class. During deep sleep, Jihyo dreamed of the car accident that caused his mother to pass away. He cried while many people looked at him. A girl hugged him and told him it was okay, and she gave him a moon pendant that he kept safely in his room. Then he continued his sleeping calmly. In the morning, Jihyo tried to find a book in the library and accidentally met Jimin, but she avoided him as normal. Therefore, he quickly asked, "Please help me, senior. I can't keep up." She couldn't refuse when he asked for help, so she found herself back in his presence. He asked her to help him with business philosophy, which was her best core subject. When she helped people, her true personality would shine like the sun. Jihyo found himself captivated by her and unable to look away. "Are you with me, Jihyo?" she asked. Yeah, I understand," he replied. Two students uttered, "Who is that handsome young man?" "Pull him. He might not know he was with a criminal." Jimin heard it, so she quickly left him without a word. Let's talk about Kim. She saw her boyfriend with a girl kissing, so she captured the pictures. It seemed she didn't feel hurt seeing a thing like this. In class, Kim sat next to Jihyo and wanted to touch him, but he went to sit with Jimin. Jimin changed seats, so he followed her. "Why are you avoiding me again?" Jihyo asked. "Stay away from me if you want to know many people," she answered. "No, I don't want any. I want only you," he quickly responded. Jihyo didn't hear it because she saw many students say something about them. They both got panicked, but Jihyo seems worse when people looked at him. Jimin held his hand and calmed him. Fortunately, the teacher went in, everything calmed. Kim was furious about them holding hands, but pretended to look cool. Junho, like Kim, was uneasy seeing his ex-girlfriend find a new lover. Well, this is so complicated. Soon after the class finished, Jimin disappeared into thin air. Jihyo wanted to follow but couldn't find her. In a nightclub, Kim caught his boyfriend kissing the same girl. She slapped the girl. Junho explained, "We just met and she kissed me first." Kim showed him the picture of him with her. She said, "Let's break up." He tried to beg her, but it seemed she truly wanted nothing to do with him. Junho turned back to the girl and found out that she just made out with the other guy. Next morning, Kim sat in between Jihyo and Jimin. She wanted to be friends with Jimin again. Jimin was so stunned to hear this, but she wouldn't be Kim's friends for today or the future. After the class finished, Jimin normally left school early, but this time Jihyo secretly followed and found out that she volunteered teaching at an orphanage. Jimin was surprised to see him follow her. However, the kids wanted to play with Jihyo, but he panicked again. Jimin held his hand and explained, "They are kids. They just want to play. They won't care if we are stupid." Then Jimin started playing football with them happily because it was his first time. Jimin noticed something shining with the man that had been trapped. Then it was time for them to leave the center. Jihyo walked Jimin to her rented room. During the walk, Jimin said, "I wish I could think like kids. They don't care about what other people would think of them. They would do what they wanted." Jihyo laughed. So Jimin continued, "Oh, don't laugh. Children's intelligence is better than us because they don't spend time thinking about what others think about them. Why can't I have this kid's ability?" Now they arrived at Jimin's place. Without a surprise for Jimin, her stuff was outside and the door was locked. She explained, "I didn't have money for the rent because I had many subjects to finish, so no time for jobs." "Oh, why do I have to explain to you?" Jihyo smiled and suggested, "I have many free rooms at my house, if you don't mind." "Why do you have many free rooms?" "But it's okay." Jimin paused and thought for a while. Then she replied, Oh, that was a great idea. I could be your tutor and live there for free. I am an excellent teacher." Jihyo called his driver and drove to his house. When they arrived, Jimin was shocked because it was not a house. It was like a palace. She also wondered what if his family would think when he brought an older woman to stay like this. Jihyo brought Jimin to her room. Then Jihyo's father arrived. Jihyo told his father the story of Jimin, who would stay here and become his tutor. Jihyo's father was really astonished, so he came to see Jimin. Immediately, they both seemed to know each other but do not know where they met. Jimin reported why she couldn't afford a room because she was too busy to study, so she could not find a part-time job. Jihyo's father understood and gave Jimin the most welcome look ever. She felt strange with this family, but what could she do because she had already been in hell? There was nothing more of her to lose anyway. The next day, the two of them went to school together intimately. Junho sat next to Jimin, which surprised her. Kim went to sit next to Jihyo. Jimin whispered in Junho's ears, "Are you two separated?" "If no need to ask," Junho replied. After leaving school, Junho walked next to Jimin as Jihyo parted them away from each other. Then he said, "Let's walk fast, we hurry home." Hearing this, Kim and Junho were shocked. Jimin lied. "That's right, I asked Jihyo to take me home because we go the same way." When he got in the car, Jimin also told Jihyo, "Do not let them know we live together. I don't want them to say I flirted with my brother." These words made Jihyo very upset. When he got home, he was sad and his father wondered. The driver said that maybe it was jealousy. From this situation, we can conclude that Jihyo's father seems to like Jimin. At night, Jimin knocked on the door and called Jihyo to watch TV with her. When seeing the accident scene, Jihyo started to be so anxious that he broke out in a sweat. Jimin's hug was tight and reassuring, and Jihyo felt a sense of safety wash over him. After that, Jimin brought Jihyo into the room, and by chance she came across a moon necklace. She exclaimed, "Is this my necklace?" Hearing this, our Jihyo almost lost his mind. He did not expect that the girl who used to help him as a child was Jimin. Jihyo jumped up and hugged Jimin. That's why Jimin kept wondering why she felt that she had known Jihyo and his father. Actually, he was the boy who showed her the power of kindness. In the morning, Jimin found herself sleeping next to Jihyo. She observed him carefully. She told herself, he grew up to be this handsome. Her hand then found its way to touch Jihyo's, but he suddenly grabbed her hand and smiled gently. She panicked again and told Jihyo to ready himself for breakfast. Tonight, she would start teaching him. Arriving at her room, Jimin was a bit shaking. His smile was too much, she whispered. At breakfast, Jihyo brought his chair to sit next to Jimin, which made everyone wonder. Jimin herself felt shy. Jihyo's father also asked what happened. She explained how she came to be Jihyo's savior as a child and had met Jihyo's father once during that time. Jihyo's father was surprised and stopped for a moment. He said, "That's why I feel close and trust you from the first meeting. Thank you so much for helping Jihyo." Jimin smiled and looked at Jihyo's face to experience the sun was shining on his face. In school, this smile attracted many female students. Jimin seems jealous, so she quickly walked faster. Arriving in class, Jimin smiled happily at having a conversation with Jihyo. Junho saw her smile. He began to feel strange again. Kim was furious to see Jihyo close to Jimin, not her. The next day, Jihyo came to see the doctor, Kim's father. He was surprised because Jihyo was like another person with a beautiful smile. Jihyo's father was happy to hear this. Suddenly, Kim came to visit her father and met Jihyo. Kim's father saw that his daughter knew Jihyo like this, so he told his daughter to report on Jihyo's condition. Kim was very happy because it was an opportunity for her to spend more time with Jihyo, but Jihyo didn't seem to show any excitement. Jimin, after learning about Jihyo's past, tried to figure out how to help him by researching and reading some books. She intended to take him to the elderly center she volunteered. Now Jihyo has arrived, so she asked Jihyo if he was free to help her at the elderly center on the weekend. Jihyo's father answered on behalf of his son, "Oh, Jihyo couldn't go there because..." He was about to finish this sentence. Jihyo answered himself, "Oh, it would be great." Jihyo's father's face lit up with a shy smile, and he replied, "Yes, it's great." At night, Jimin started teaching. Although she had a high score in the subjects, she felt that this boy seems to be learning much faster than her. When Jihyo tried to concentrate on the book, Jimin watched him unconsciously. The next morning was when Jimin brought Jihyo to volunteer at the elderly center. Jihyo seemed frightened and trembling when he saw the elderly staring at him. Jimin knew that doing something rashly was not a good thing. It's the first time for this rich boy, so Jihyo did sing awkwardly. Jimin happily taught him the proper washing technique, and together they rhythmically stepped on the wet clothes. In an instant, Jihyo lost his footing, but Jimin's quick reflexes saved him as she caught him by placing her hand on his back and holding onto his hand. They both started to feel weird again. Jimin seems to have something that made it harder for her to look at Jihyo's face, so she decided to go to do another job. In the evening, they had to leave. The elderly praised Jihyo's handsomeness, but he was shy and did not dare to look at the faces of people. So one grandmother said, "Do not be afraid, son. My husband was like you too, so he couldn't confess until we became old. However, he couldn't stay with me long enough because of cancer." Jihyo was shocked by this statement, but Jimin thought he was feeling bad, so she hurriedly brought Jihyo home. For months, Jihyo continued to volunteer, working more happily. He also began to talk a lot with the elderly and did more housework. Jimin was impressed with this significant progress. Speaking of her teaching at night, she was speechless. It seemed like Jihyo could absorb and comprehend information at lightning speed. Back in school, Jihyo started to look at other people's faces and became brighter and happier along with Jimin. But Kim seemed angry and trembling because everyone started talking to Jimin like before. Everyone was no longer paying attention to her, so she couldn't let this continue. One day at the center, Jimin finished her job in the back and walked to the front, but she did not see Jihyo. She asked the grandmother if she had seen Jihyo. She replied, "We wanted to eat egg cake and only be sold at the market, so the handsome young boy went to buy cakes for us." Jimin was terribly concerned, so she rashly ran to the market and found something she did not expect. Jihyo bravely walked into the crowd and no one scared him. Jimin smiled with tears while Jihyo walked towards her. They returned happily. Over several months, she consistently put in effort and it paid off. One day, Jimin came to school as usual and everyone stopped talking to her. She heard the students talk about the daughter of a deceiver. Jimin suddenly felt sweaty, scared, and imagined the story of the police surrounding her. Jihyo asked her what happened. She felt the weight of everyone's gaze on her face. The message sent shockwave through the student body, and they immediately began investigating her father's criminal history as a scammer. Overwhelmed with fear, Jimin made a quick decision to escape from the class. Kim smiled brightly while Jihyo tried to follow Jimin. Arriving home, he couldn't find Jimin. He went everywhere she used to go, but could not find her. For hours, Jihyo could not contact Jimin. He asked his father to report to the police. His father told him to wait a little longer, but Jihyo refused, and the phone rang. Jimin called to tell Jihyo, "I have arrived at my grandmother's house, and do not worry about me. I'm very okay. I want time to stay alone because I must prepare for the final exam." Then she hung up. For weeks, Jimin spent her time with her grandmother and visiting her parents' grave. She did the same thing over and over again. But one day, when she returned home, she found Jihyo sitting next to her grandmother. She wondered why Jihyo knew her grandmother's house, but this man wouldn't explain. Her grandmother whispered in Jimin's ear, "This handsome boy seems to love my granddaughter very much." Jimin replied in surprise, "No, Grandma, he is very young and he doesn't see me that way. He never says anything about love or like to me. Don't care about the words, but his action. And I see you smiled brightly seeing him," Jimin's grandmother continued. Jimin thought for a moment. She said nothing further, then prepared dinner and ate together happily. Outside the house, Jimin and Jihyo sat down to ask each other about the exam, as they both would have an exam shortly. Despite their obvious attraction, they both seemed hesitant and uncertain around each other. Jimin seemed to know that Jihyo had something to confess, but she couldn't look him in the eyes. Jihyo's voice shook as he nervously confessed, "I love you." Jimin's heartbeat rang, duk duk. She could hear it out loud because this confession seemed immediate. "I felt good with you too, but I don't know what stopped me to accept your confession. However, I have something to tell you. It's my past." "I don't care about the past," he insisted. She explained, "Let me do it. It can relax my mind." She began to recount the past. "I have lived with a rich family since I was a child. I've never known hardship. My father was very successful in business. When I went to college, everyone always wanted to be by my side, especially Kim. But everything started to change when my father was conned by his business partner, and all the blame fell on my father. He fell into the hell of a debt. He sold everything, but he couldn't get out of debt. The cheater couldn't be found. No evidence was shown to the police, so he was imprisoned. I remembered I was surrounded by the police and reporters with my father during the arrest. My father couldn't continue his life in prison because of depression. Soon, my mother followed my dad. Fortunately, my grandmother was the last one who pushed me to finish university. One thing I learned from her is to expect and face hardship. Jimin noticed the sadness on Jihyo's face, so she told him to give himself a chance to meet someone that might be better than her. He was about to refuse, but Jimin stopped him, as she knew the future was not clear to him and to her. Jihyo looked very sad, but he didn't want to force Jimin. Jimin returned to Jihyo's house and apologized to Jihyo's father for worrying the whole family. Jihyo handed her the tablet, and the screen lit up with all the unexpected discoveries. In the morning, Jihyo made an appointment to meet Kim at the volleyball hall. She handed over Jihyo's tablet to Kim, which in the tablet is revealed in everything that Kim did. The story was that she spread and slandered Jimin as the daughter of a criminal. She also hired people in school to insult Jimin, and there was 2 times. The first time before Jihyo came to the school, and the second time when Jihyo came to the school. Jihyo uncovered more than that. Kim hired a woman to be close to Junho and reasoned it to break up with Junho. Why are you doing this? Jimin asked, her voice choked with tears. What did I do wrong to you that your anger caused you to do such thing? Kim replied, you had done nothing bad, but you always attracted the attention of the surrounding people. You were perfect in everything. You treated us as friends just to show off. No one could be kind like that all the time. You are fake. After hearing this, Jimin wiped away the tears and said, I don't know what to say. I don't forgive you for what you did, and it seems like you don't want to apologize either. But okay, all the bad things you did to me really changed me a lot. If you want to do it to me, keep doing it, and I will try to solve every hardship you caused, because everything you did strengthened me. If you make a genuine effort to be kind, you'll begin to understand my point of view. Then Jimin left the hall. Her departure left Kim feeling like a volcano about to erupt. When she came out, Jimin met Junho, who was listening outside, but he giggled. Junho told Jimin, you're lucky, Jimin. Jihyo asked everyone about your grandmother's house, but no one knew. He continued asking, and at the same time trying to find out who hurt you. I'm really surprised by Jihyo's commitment. Then I told him the location you used to tell me about when we were dating. I root for you too. Jimin said nothing because she had to prepare for her university graduation exam. Jihyo had to finish his first year exams too. The exam is now over. Jimin also collected her things and said thanks to Jihyo's whole family for allowing her to stay and do nothing except for sitting near Jihyo. Jihyo's father invited Jimin to work for his company, whatever her result would be, but she asked for time to think. Jimin said a little to Jihyo because she knew this boy didn't want her to leave. For several days, they lived apart. Jihyo continued his volunteering work, but he was not as happy as usual. As for Jimin, who was staying with her grandmother, she seems to have something stuck in her mind. The exam results were out. When she checked the computer, she saw that her score was good. She wanted to tell Jihyo the news, but something stopped her from doing it. I'm your grandmother here. You do not tell me the result, her grandmother said with a chuckle. But you want to tell someone first. Jimin struggled to find an answer, so she finally said, Grandma, I find it difficult to decide. I told myself that I didn't love him, but I'm worried about him every day. Something tightened my heart too. I don't trust him because he is perfect in everything. His knowledge, his looks, and his wealth. His future is whatever I don't know. I am not enough for him. Grandma also shouted. You are afraid of pain, right? Thinking for a moment, she replied, Of course, Grandma. She smiled and continued to explain. No one sees their future, my granddaughter. But you must remember your words. You'll never know what might happen if you don't give it a shot. Let people hurt us. Our strength will increase with this aid. Oh, the word enough you mentioned is not your decision to decide. Jimin smiled. Back at the university, it had an award ceremony for the best to Jihyo. Despite the festive atmosphere around him, the man did not seem to share 100% in the happiness. Jihyo's father was happy to see his son confidently standing in front of so many people like this. Suddenly, Jimin stood next to Jihyo's father and he smiled for a moment. After visiting Jihyo's father, she asked for time to talk to Jihyo. When they left, Jihyo said to himself, "My son didn't give me a smile, but he just smiled at Jimin." Jimin led Jihyo to the corridor where they first met. Jimin said, "Actually, when I saw you there the first time, oh no, it was the second time, I immediately began to feel happy for no apparent reason. But after we had known each other for a long time, I realized that you were that boy who taught me how powerful kindness is. I didn't realize it at the time, but helping you changed me a lot. I don't want to go for deeper detail. I just want to ask if you still love me. But first, I had something to confess." Jimin's hands were trembling while Jihyo's expression was intimidating. "I love you, Jihyo. Do you still love me? Do I still have a chance?" she asked with a shaking voice. Jihyo burst into tears and hugged her. He replied with his heart trembling, "You have the chance for the rest of my life, sister." Jimin laughed and asked, "So how do we call each other? Call me sister forever or what?" Jihyo smiled and replied, "It's okay, let's find a solution together." And our story ends here. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I had hundreds of stories to share with you.